Step into the realms of ancient legends and fierce warriors as we embark on a journey into the captivating world of Vikings, Valhalla and Norse mythology. Uncover the tales of gods, heroes and the ever-enigmatic afterlife, where honor, battles and destiny intertwine in a saga that's captivated hearts and minds for centuries. Come with us on a ride as we at History Unfolded tour Valhalla with Odin. You've probably heard of the Norse concept of Valhalla if you keep up with the latest games or watch a lot of content on streaming platforms. Most people think of this as Viking heaven, and that's not far off. But Valhalla is not just the afterlife for Vikings. True, Valhalla is a hall of the slain, but it's not some boring, lifeless afterlife. Join me as I delve into the Viking Age's religious culture and reveal the truth about Valhalla. To put it simply, Valhalla is the afterlife destination of valiant warriors. The Norse mythological tradition is no different from any other in its emphasis on the afterlife. The inhabitants of Valhalla are referred to as Einherjar as a group. Army of One is the direct translation of the Einherji noun, making these soldiers the most feared and vicious in the known world. They may have left the world of the living, yet their existence is far from over. The Einherjar aren't idle luthiers who just hang out on clouds all day. Preparation for Ragnarok is required. Another well-known but poorly understood Norse idea is Ragnarok, which is akin to Armageddon or the end of days. Events such as natural calamities and the earth being inundated in water are predicted, and this is completely interpreted as the final destiny of the gods. In particular, the dead rise from the graves, and the gods of Asgard engage in a titanic conflict with the Jotnar, or giants. Common deities like Odin, Thor, Heimdall and Loki all meet their ends. Ragnarok ushers in a period of global renewal. The two remaining gods get together and start populating the planet again. To get to Valhalla, what must you do? Do serious offenders go to Valhalla after severe punishments? To know more about these thrilling punishments, watch our previous video on Viking justice. Scholars can't seem to agree on the best route to take to reach Valhalla. Die a magnificent death is often cited as the primary motivator. You can't just drop your guard and hope for the best in a fight. That won't get you very far. Instead, you should go out fighting like a champion before meeting your grim end. However, that still might not be adequate. Those who die in battle, but only half the time, do not all travel to Valhalla. Everything else will have to wait until we've had a chance to meet the Valkyries. The name Valkyrie means slayer-picker in Old Norse. Some interpret this to suggest that the winners of battles get to choose their own heroes to join them in Valhalla. But there are many who say it's even nuttier than that. Most modern scholars agree that the Valkyries didn't merely select warriors at random from among those who had died in battle, but rather deliberately chose and sealed the destiny of the best warriors to ensure that they would join Odin in Valhalla for the last battle of Ragnarok. In Valhalla, what exactly happens? As you may guess, living in preparation for the end of the world conflict is no easy task. There will be plenty of conflict with so many warrior spirits in the area. In reality, the combat goes on for hours every day. This is the finest way to prepare a fighter to face and defeat the Jotnar. Even if you're undead, the constant combat is bound to cause some pain. Fortunately, every night in Valhalla, you can rest assured that your wounds will be healed and you'll be ready to fight when the sun rises. You'd be correct in assuming that they experience hunger. They get famished beyond belief. Moreover, fortunately, you don't need to feed an entire herd of wild animals to sustain them. Instead, the enormous boar Sæhrimnir can sustainably feed all of the men, since, like the men, it regenerates its energy reserves overnight. They'd need millions of bees to produce enough honey for their mead to wash down all that tasty boar meat, right? Oh no, actually all they need is hern, a goat whose lactating udders can create an endless supply of the best mead in the world. It's no surprise that battles are fought over who gets to enter Valhalla. What's not to like about a world where there's always something to eat and drink and always something to fight about? Let me tell you about the landscape of Valhalla. Valhalla is supposed to be visually gorgeous, as befitting a hall worthy of the heroic dead. The golden shields on the ceiling are supported by spears. No one knows for sure how big it is, but it's undoubtedly huge. Bilskirnir, Thor's hall within Valhalla, has 540 rooms. There are places to fight, places to live, and places to eat. Hundreds of warriors sit at massive tables and drink as much mead and eat as much food as they like. The benches are covered with letter mail coats. The Valkyries see to their every need so that nothing can disrupt their focus on the upcoming battle. Eagles soar above as a wolf hangs in the hall's entrance. One of the most beautiful things in the world, the golden tree glacier, stands outside the hall. Hern, the goat who makes mead, and Egternir, the hart whose antlers drip liquid into the spring from which all waters in the earth flow, can both be found here. They both call Lera, the tree of Valhalla, home and spend their days grazing from its branches. If only the bravest and strongest warriors were able to enter Valhalla, then where does that leave the rest of us? If the best get an afterlife, then the rest of us must get something, right? What about ordinary farmers? Actually, there are other destinations that can be reached after a Norse burial, and Valhalla is just one of them. Folkfanger, also known as People Field or Army Field, is where the other half of the dead go to be with the goddess Freya. The hall Sersnir is located in a lovely meadow. Freya has dual meanings. She is both a goddess of love and fertility and also of battle. It is supposed that she is the ruler of Hjanengarv, the place where the dead fight again the next day. Hell, often known as Helheim, is the afterlife's second most prevalent destination. While the two terms share a common root, Hell and Helheim refer to a different place in Norse mythology, divided by an impassable river and ruled over by the goddess Hel. Those who went to Hell were the peacefully departed, such as the aged and sick. Balder, a god who fell for Loki's trickery and died, joined Loki in the underworld of Hell. In addition to these big three, there's also some evidence that sailors who die at sea go to a place called Ran. Last but not least, there's Helgafjall, a tranquil mountain where families can be reunified. What does the existence of Valhalla reveal about the Norse? A lot may be learned about Norse worldview from an afterlife myth in which the most frightening and great warriors are chosen to live on in lavish splendor. The idea that being kind to others, abiding by the law and showing compassion is the way to achieve lasting happiness is a relatively new one. Like many other early mythologies, Norse mythology glorifies conflict and triumph. This demonstrates that the early Norse people placed a high value on fighting and conquering new territory. Scandinavians have always had to be tough because they are a maritime nation from the chilly climates of northern Europe. The same is true in scavenging for supplies in foreign locations, when usually only the hardest make it through. Conflict was common in the past because it was used to secure resources and prevent their loss. This is the root cause for war's glorification. It must be the will of the gods if violence is the only option to ensure the survival of the tribe. It stands to reason that the gods would favor the most competent, powerful, and fearless soldiers if the end of the world involved a massive battle. Understanding the Norse conception of death and the Viking afterlife is no easy task. Since death is the ultimate unknown, contradictions are to be expected, and all written tales date to after the Christian era and appear to be influenced by Christian concepts of the afterlife. Norse burial practices were clearly intended to provide the deceased with all they need to prosper in the afterlife, proving that Vikings did believe in an afterlife. A wide variety of afterlife destinations exist, including Valhalla, Hel, Ran, and a few others. The Vikings' most popular methods of interment were cremation and burial of the ashes. Along with the body, Vikings often buried funerary goods, a practice that suggests they expected the deceased to use these items in the next world. All walks of Viking life were represented in the graves of the dead. Craftsmen with their tools, merchants with their valuable metal jewelry that could double as currency in a pinch, and warriors with their swords and shields. It was possible that affluent Vikings would be buried in a ship that they could operate in the hereafter, or at least in stone outlines fashioned to look like ships, which appeared just as functional. There's also a good chance that the super rich were buried alongside their slaves. DNA and nutrition analysis of the remains in a Norse cemetery in Flakstad, Norway, indicate that the bulk of the people buried there were likely slaves. The burial of a Viking chief allegedly included the sacrifice of a woman, as reported by the 10th century traveler Ahmed ibn Fadlan. However, the funerals of the vast majority of Vikings would have been much more somber affairs.